To get started with this instruction, you'll need to get a starter package. The easiest way to get there, bit.ly/chem with Unity. That will take you to this Google Drive. The starter package you want is this one, CSV Demo Starter Package, and download that to a place where you know where it is. For me, it's going in my downloads folder. Then from Unity Hub, make a new project, 2D at the top here, give it a good title, and create the project. So that'll take some time for it to load up. So lately I've had this problem. When I open a new project, I get an error. If you get this, just close the project and try again, and I've never had a problem on the second load. So once you have it successfully loaded, a new project, it's empty. Go to Assets up at the top, Import Package, Custom Package. Then find the downloaded package that you got from the Google Drive and say Open. So up will come this. You want all of these and say Import. That may take a little while to load. When it has finished, File menu, Open Scene, Scenes folder, CSV Demo Scene. And it'll look like this, and you're ready to go. This scene that I've given you has 3 rows, each with a question and 3 possible answer choices. So the goal of this video is to show how you can populate all of this from an Excel spreadsheet. Excel spreadsheet could look like this. So each one of these rows is a duplicate of a prefab. So the prefab itself is called the row prefab in the prefabs folder. And if we look at that in scene view, you can see there's a question. There's answer A, B, and C. And each one has a canvas attached with a place to add text. Right now the text for this first box says question. But we're going to change that with the Excel spreadsheet. So in your project assets folder, you'll find this demo CSV. This is where it all starts. So if I double click it, it should open Excel. And to start, I just typed in these words and numbers into Excel. I created a spreadsheet, and then I saved it in the Unity folder. So make sure when you do that, that you A, find the right folder, and B, make sure that the type is comma delimited. CSV stands for comma separated values. So if you've never looked at this, the default is Excel workbook, but you have many choices. I chose this one, comma delimited CSV. I created an empty game object called a CSV reader, and I attached to it this read CSV script. So this is a skeleton script. If I open it in Visual Studio, it outlines what sort of variables we need, but it doesn't have any working code. So I'm going to write this code. I want you to write it along with me. As we do that, you should understand how does it work. So the first code I'm going to write with you is the read CSV script. So I can open that from Unity, opens in Visual Studio. We can use the start function to do everything that's important. So first, let's look at the variables. This text asset is the Excel spreadsheet that you saved in the Unity project. So we'll start that here in Unity. Excel data CSV will just be this CSV demo is what I called mine. Go back to CSV Reader, go back to this script in the inspector, and just take that CSV demo, drag it over to here. So now it has reference to this spreadsheet that was saved from Excel. The second thing we want to do is to turn that text asset into a string. I made it a public string so we'll be able to see it. So this is pretty easy to do. CSV to split is the Unity string, and it will be this Excel data CSV. That's the Excel data, and it has text, and it's that simple. So the CSV to split is now a string in Unity, and it'll be a big long string. We'll take a look at it. So I'm saving this script here, and whenever you've saved yours, then continue this instructional video. Coming back to Unity now, and it should be now that when I press play, it will turn this CSV demo into a public string here. And there you see it. So this was the information typed into the spreadsheet, and now it's a string in Unity. It's one big long string. It does have in it commas. These are the comma separated values. There was the question, what is 2 plus 3, comma, answer choice A, comma, answer choice B, comma, etc. There is a carriage return at the end here. It's a non-printing character, but it starts the next line. So in the starter project, I put these comments. So the first task is to assign the Excel data to a Unity string. That's what we did already. Second, we're going to split the long string. So the CSV to split is one big long string. We'll split it at the end of each line, which is a carriage return. And this will then create an array of shorter strings, one for each line. So let's take a look at this. Turns out really easy to do. All we need to do is say this array of data for each row. So we've already defined it as a string array up here at the top. And we're going to do the splitting of the big long string. This is the big long string. And the Unity has a command to just split. Then you need to say where, what character, what special character will we use to split this long string. Single quotation marks. Double quotes won't work. \n. That is the code for a carriage return end of line non-printing character. Okay, so that's it. That's all you need to do. Save it. And then we'll go back to Unity and see what that does. All right, so here we go. Starting from the beginning, CSV Reader is highlighted so we can see what happens in the script here. Press play. So now you can see here's the original long string. And now this is populated, this array of data for each row. If we expand it, it's split it at the end of each line. So now element 1 is just that line across. What is 2 plus 3? Answer choice A, B, C. What's the correct answer choice? Next line, what is the capital of Canada? So these are going to go into these boxes here in the Unity scene. So we're almost there. Next thing we're going to do is this last public variable here, list of row prefabs in the scene. And we'll match these up with the text array that we've already created. So here in the code, I'm looking at this one now. This is an array. So we've outlined that there's going to be an array of game objects. Title is hopefully self-explanatory. List of row prefabs in the scene. We're now going to assign that using the inspector. So list of row prefabs in scene. I'm expanding it on the inspector. It's empty right now. There are in this scene 1, 2, 3 row prefabs. However, we're going to make this list be 4 elements. It'll make it easier because then I can assign row prefab 1 to be element 1 and row prefab 2 to be element 2. So I'm just taking them from the hierarchy, dragging them over, and now the CSV reader knows there are 3 row prefabs in this particular scene. If you had a bigger array here, there might be 6 or 10 or 20. And so you just expand it for your needs. All right, save that. Now, let's press play again so I can show you what we're trying to do. So now, the script automatically cut the CSV into these lines. Element 0 is text that we're not going to use. We're not going to put that into the scene. Those are the titles, the headers. But element 1 corresponds to row prefab 1. Element 2, that text, corresponds to row prefab 2. So each of these row prefabs is based on a prefab here in the folder. And if we look at that, it has the 4 visible game objects, and it has a script attached to the parent, which is an empty game object. And you can see that this script requires a master string for this row. Let's pull it out. The master string contains data for all 4 boxes. Then it also requires data for each box in this row. That's when we'll cut the master string into bits. And it requires a list of text boxes in this row. The text boxes in this row, let's do it now. List is empty. Let's make this be 4. Here they are, 4. And you see they're blank, but it knows that we're looking for a text box. So the question, maybe you need to expand this. If so, do so. And you can see the question, there's a text box for that. That'll be element 0. Each of the answers also has a text box. We'll make those elements 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's done in the prefab. Because it's done in the prefab, it will be true that row prefab 1 already has assigned its own boxes, and row prefab 2 has assigned its boxes, and row prefab 3 has assigned its boxes. So we did it for all of them, and that's a power of using these prefabs. So this is going to be very similar to what we already did. We're going to take the master string for the row and split it into individual data morsels. and each one of those morsels will go in a text box here. All right, so we need the public string, master string for this row, and then this is what it will create in the code, is what's the data for each box in the row. All of this relies on this master string, so we need to get the master string from the CSV reader to the row prefabs. So let's do that now. So the third task here, we're going to assign the shorter strings, the ones we cut at the end of each line, to a particular row. So this will be a little loop here. For I is just an index, it's a counter. We're going to start at 1. We're going to say less than the count or the length of this array. Okay, so this will be list of row prefabs in scene. We put 4 if you'll recall. I is less than the length of that array. So it has 4 elements. Since we're going to less than 4, that means we should be doing I equals 1, I equals 2, I equals 3, and then we will be done. And then we do I++. So this is standard loop technology. Okay, and then we're going to just do this. So this list of row prefabs in scene is an array. We are going to reference the specific instance indexed by I. We're starting at 1. We'll go to 2. We'll go to 3. Each of those row prefabs in scene has a component. The script is a component. We called it the row prefab script. Parentheses at the end. Whoop. Whenever you get a component, that's a command that requires the parentheses at the end. Now, the specific thing we're trying to do is to transfer this master string for the row. So the master string for this row equals, and this is where we have this string array already created, the array of data for each row. So this string array is now being transferred to the row prefabs, and so this is simply the array of data for each row instance I. So this lines them up. The string number 1 goes to row prefab 1. String number 2 goes to row prefab number 2, etc. And while we're at it, once the row prefab has that master string, then we want to separate the data for that row. Okay, right now that doesn't do anything, but we can put this in here, and it's just copy. It's easiest to just copy this. So there we go. We are looking at that row prefab has that component, and it has a function which we want to now invoke, which is separate the data for this row. Separate the data for this row. Again, parentheses to make it work. All right. Okay, save that, and let's go back to Unity and see if we can understand where we are at this point. Okay, so the row prefab, I'm highlighting that now, and if our code is working, then this master string will be populated from the CSV through the scripts we wrote. So here is row prefab A, and here is the master string for the row. It has the question, it has the answer choices, it has the key. Row prefab 2 has a different question, different answer choices, different key. Boom, there, it's working. So now we'll finish up the code on the row prefab and you'll see how it all works. So row prefab script, bring that up. And we've got the master string working. We now need to make this work. So this is another array of strings. It's the data for each box in the row. So we'll take the master string, which has question, answer, 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 and separate the data for the row. Okay, so here's the comment. That's what we're going to do. It's one line of code. It is this array, data for each box. That's the array. We're going to populate it by splitting the master string. So take the master string, split it, and we have to tell it what character we're splitting it at. In this case, it's single quotes, and it's a comma. So this will now split the line going across at every comma. The commas were used to separate the question from answer A, from answer B, from answer C. And we can now do the second thing, which is to say that's now an array. This is an array. And we've got the text boxes already listed. Let's assign them. So in this case, it's going to be for I equals 0 in this case. The first data is in 0. So here I'm going to write I is less than 4. So again, that gets us 0, 1, 2, and 3. That's 4 instances. Okay, there we go. And then once again, this is really easy. We just take the list of text boxes. We're going to assign each one of these is a text box. Let's take the ith version of that, so we'll start with 0. We have to say text. Okay, this is not intuitively obvious, but we say this is the text box, this is what you want to put in the text box, and this is now going to be a string. Which string do we want to put in there? It is the string from the array, the data for each box in this row, index I. So this is again a one-to-one matchup of the text boxes to the string array, except we are not displaying the 5th item in the string array. That's the key. That's the answer key. Save this. Go back to Unity. Look at the entire scene here, game view, and press play. You can see it is each box in the Unity has been filled from the original data sheet, the spreadsheet. So we did that with 2 scripts, one of them on the CSV reader, which took the data from the Excel and turned it into a long string and split it into rows. And we passed each row to one of these row prefabs. They have a script attached, and then you see we split it at the commas. And it put them into the text boxes which we assigned in the prefab. So that's where this video is going to end. You may be saying, but how do I choose an answer? So that'll be a separate instructional video, and we would have to make these into buttons, which we can do. And then check the answer, right? Check the answer.